Yeah, it was a great start. I thought the operations were excellent. Timing, operation was pretty good.
Yeah, he credited Charlie and Corey for how much more difficult it is on them. I think we maybe don't appreciate all the nuance that goes into that. Was that really challenging for them in those kinds of conditions?
I think they handled it pretty well. We actually had a few practices in training camp in the elements whenever it was raining out there, and that's good times to be able to practice and get that work. So when it rains, I'm not upset at practice.
Welcome to Cleveland moment, having that weather. What was the message to him coming off the field after he did kick it and kick so successfly in those elements?
Yeah, he hit the ball well. Good elevation, good rotation on all of his kicks. Timing was good. Yeah, it was great that we were able to connect and earn those points.
How did you feel? How did you feel like the coverage units? It seemed like you didn't give up many yards, after, the return guy caught it. How did you have those guys kind of grade out?
First ball of the game, we left a little short, so we cleaned that up as the game went along on the kickoff, and then on the punts, I felt like we covered with pretty good leverage. That's going to be important this week, going against a really good returner in Austin for them in Pittsburgh. But emphasis on leverage and coverage and everyone doing their job and playing complementary coverage.
What are your thoughts and memories of going into Pittsburgh and trying to win a big division game like this?
Yeah, it's a great environment to play in. I'm born and raised there. I have a lot of family that are from Pittsburgh that are going to be at the game, so it's always fun to play and coach there for me. And excited for our team and another opportunity at a division to hopefully go in there and do what we can to get a win.
Bubba, as Steelers to you?
Say that again.
What was Brown Steelers to you when you were a kid?
As a kid, I was a Steelers fan, and then once I became an NFL player, I quickly became not a Steelers fan. So, that being said, obviously we knew that it was a tremendous rival back then. I do remember Eric Metcalf taking those 2 punts back. I think was it a playoff game, or what? End of the regular season, yeah. So I do remember that scarring me as a kid, and now I can embrace that now that I'm a part of this organization. So.
Have you or will you share your view of Steelers week with some of your players this week?
Yeah, and I haven't really talked much about me actually going back and how personal it is from my perspective. I'll probably talk about that a little bit later in the week, tomorrow and into Saturday and Sunday. What is today? Today's Friday. Yeah, I told Murph it felt like it was Thursday. But yeah, so I'll definitely expand on that with my players.
Well, how difficult is that stadium? It used to be one of the tougher places to kick field goals in, especially to the open end. As they've kind of enclosed it, has that changed, the conditions to kick in there?
I think it's always been a difficult place to kick. Dustin's had a handful of games there, to my knowledge. It is what it is. Whatever the conditions are, we'll be ready for them. We'll test them out in pregame. It doesn't look like it's going to be too bad on the elements. Maybe some rain earlier in the day, so we'll see how that goes.
Bubba, as a young coach, kind of being around a guy like Jim Schwartz, what have you sort of picked up for him in your few months together so far?
He's awesome. I like Coach Schwartz a lot. I've learned a lot from him. He holds players accountable. He holds coaches accountable. That's similarities that I feel like I have, amongst my players and my staff. He is a funny guy. I really enjoy him. He's super smart. I've learned a lot. We've talked through a lot of situational things we're going to do, collectively, whether it's, whether it involves he or I or, our units per se, on how we can work together to make them the most efficient and most effective, especially in those critical moments in the game when it involves defense to special teams, and then some things we've implemented into our schemes, and really more into my schemes than into his.
Can you hear him in the building when he's holding those players and coaches accountable?
Oh yeah, Coach Schwartz is loud. Probably a little bit louder than me, and I think that I can be loud on the field at times. But no, he's been great. I think that everyone has gravitated toward his personality, and you can see that defense has taken on his his personality and, his style of play.
It seems like in some ways he's old school, but then on the other hand, he was one of the first guys out there to really embrace data and utilize it to his advantage. Is that something that you guys, when you talk about things you've learned from him, that comes to mind?
Yeah, and Kevin did a good job of that this offseason, of getting the coaches together, working collectively, and really expanding our knowledge on all of those fronts. So situational football is how you win and lose football games. So I think we've done a good job of preparing ourselves for everything that we're about to encounter this year.
Did you feel like you guys came close to blocking one of those punts on Sunday?
We had good pressure. Yeah, we had good pressure on a number of them. The plan's always going to dictate, how we attack an opponent. Some weeks we may pressure more than others. Some weeks we may not. Everything is factored in. Whether it's the operation of the punter, personnel, that we're looking at. So that's a week-to-week thing. And yeah, I thought we were able to generate good pressure last week and force a couple missed hits.
What's the origin of the high school highlights on Friday's meetings?
The origin? Yeah. Where did you come up with that? I just kind of started doing it when I became a coordinator in Indy. I did it every Friday, and the players kind of took to it and liked it a lot. I haven't yet chosen one for this week, but yeah, I think it's just something to lighten it up on a Friday. We're kind of bringing everything together. I do more situational type meeting on Friday amongst all really 5 units, including our hands team. So yeah, I think the players enjoy it. It's always fun. I usually do it at the end of the meeting, and yeah.
Did you go on YouTube and find the clips, or did you ask somebody?
I would say fortunately for nowadays, it's easier to find players' highlight film, especially younger players, because of Huddle and all these, whatever you want to call it, that they put them on the internet. Back whenever I was playing, that no one could find my film. I think it was on a VHS tape. Even my college highlight film was on VHS when I was trying to send it out to scouts. So I'm not that old, but yeah.
Ever seen?
Jerome Ford is the best one I've seen. Yeah. Last week I showed it. Yeah.
Basketball won this week.
What is that? I'm lost.
Jawan.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I could. However, the big guys aren't in my meeting on Fridays. It's really for me why I do a big 4 in hands meeting on Fridays. I used to save the big guys they're early in the week, and then I get them on a Saturday meeting. So.
Break out the VHS machine. Let's go.
Yeah.
Hey, Bubba, last week, you were talking about how things happen in sports and you have to, respond the right way. How much did the life you lived as a, core special teams guy kind of prepare you for what you deal with now as a coordinator?
It wasn't I talked to my players a lot about, how I came into the league, how I felt like I stuck into the league. I think at the end of the day, it's how hard you work and how much you put into it that ultimately is going to give you the best opportunity to be successful. So, I was a back-end roster player that I feel like I had tremendous work ethic, and I was going to not be denied, and I felt like that's why I was able to stick, because I feel like I was a mentally tough and physically tough player that was going to do everything I could to be on the field and give myself a shot to succeed. I think that, with our players today, I think that if they can take on that type of mentality, and that's kind of how I've been as a coach as well. I try to do as best I can to prepare myself and my players for any situation that can come about in a game. That way, when you're going into those situations, it's just boom, you're not even thinking about it. So it's an ongoing thing. Each week you have your process, and my players are prepared in everything that we're going to see. And I'll try to review as much situational things as I can throughout the year and re-hit and refocus them and get their minds thinking the right way.
You think that extends to the uncertain, kind of the uncertain nature of your job now? I understand injuries hit every position, everything, but it seems like special teams can be a lot of movement. You experienced that recently.
Yeah, you have to. There's times in a season where you're going to have injuries. You're going to have to adapt. That's why that's why I'm in the position that I'm in. I'm trying to do the best I can with the players available. If someone's not available in that instance, you got to do your best to figure it out. And, I think that I've done a good job of that.
How did the dominance of the defense and the intensity of the defense spill over to the other units on Sunday?
Yeah, we definitely fed off of what the defense was doing. The third down stops were crucial and critical for our ability to control field position. I felt like we did a good job of that in the game. So gave our offense good fields to work with, good short fields to work with, which was a positive. Hopefully we can get a lot of that this week. Getting those stops. I came in on Monday and I could barely speak because the damn stadium was so loud, and trying to get the communication out to your players what the call is, because you could have one call up and then you get a sack and now it's longer yardage situation. You may want to get into something else. So being able to get that communication out was definitely hard in our stadium. Credit to the fans for that one.
Oh, you had Anthony Walker. He's been here as a captain this year despite being gone for almost a year. What do you appreciate about him?
Extremely hard worker, very, very well prepared, super smart, in the classroom. He's one of the first ones in the meeting room every day. And he doesn't play on all 4 units. He'll play on 1 or 2 depending on the game plan. And he's a tremendous note taker. He's very detailed. He helps the younger players out. Even when he's not in practice, he's coaching up the younger players and bringing them along. In that regard, I feel like he truly is a great leader. Not just on the defensive side of the ball, but on special teams as well. He understands it. He gets it. He's just a guy that understands football and just gets it.
Bubba, I know Mike Ford had that one really good stop to give them bad field position, and then Cam had the other one, I think, in the second quarter. Like, for a rookie to come in and get a play like that, how much of a confidence booster, I guess, can that be for Cam in particular?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, Corey gave us a good both reps, gave us good punts to cover, good leverage down the field. Both of those guys showed up in the first game, looking for those guys to be very effective cover players for us this week. Like I said, we have a tremendous challenge in this team. They've got multiple returners that they have used in the past, and we're going to be prepared for all of them. Thanks.
13-yard TD draw play over.
That's overkill. That's really, that's a result of our off-season studies. So hats off to the coaching staff. We talked through different ways to exploit different looks, and that was one of them. So that's some stuff we did in probably early March that carried over.
But what was your idea to add it to the game plan Saturday?
We talk about it, all the situations that come up, especially Saturday. The good news is the game planning's never done. To be able to go in and install something on a Saturday morning with the guys and have it show up Sunday in the game is hats off to all the guys. But it was just something we've seen from them and tried to take advantage of the situation.
How did you think Deshaun handled and overcame the elements?
Man, it was rough, Mary Kay. It wasn't a hard rain, but it was an everywhere rain. It was just that mist. It was all over everything. He missed some throws that he normally wouldn't miss because of the elements. So that's the positive. We had some guys that were open. I feel like we'd had more production had it not been such bad conditions, but both sides had to play under him. I thought he played admirably considering the conditions.
Those deep throws early that you weren't able to connect on, a lot of it because of the conditions, though. When you go back in the film room and look at that, though, do you get excited knowing that those plays were there to be made? Marquise was able to get separation. Same thing with Amari and DPJ.
For sure. We're doing good things schematically, I feel like, and had a good feel going into that game. Know that opponent really well. Good defense, obviously, but to be able to see the separation and the guys that were open, feel confident that under good conditions we'll be able to hit a few of those.
Alex, Cam's obviously a big loss for their defense. Can you quantify just what it means to not have him on that defensive front for them?
He's a perennial All-Pro. Just to take one of those guys off the field is tough for them. Obviously, good for us. They'll have guys to step in and take that role over. But when you're talking about one of the elite defensive players in the league, that's not going to be there. I'm not upset about it. Unfortunately, I know obviously you don't want to see guys get hurt, but I would rather not play Cam. I'd rather not play TJ. Those are just the realisms of the game. They're great players, and to take one of them off the field is going to be tough for them, obviously.
Alex, what have you seen out of DeJuan that makes you think he's ready for the starting role and then this matchup with TJ?
Yeah, what a matchup he gets, right? First draw out as a starter. But you guys played a lot of football at a high level, at a quality school. Played in big games before. We got to make sure we're not just leaving him out on an island. We'll take care of him. I think one of DeJuan's strengths is his pass protection. Being so large, it's tough to get around him. So it'll be exciting to watch. It'll be a great matchup. And I know DeJuan will be up for the challenge, and it is a challenge.
Alex, he's one of the biggest humans I've ever seen. Is there another tackle you've played with or coached that?
Just guys that were around when I came, like Lincoln Kennedy was a guy that he reminds me of, just a massive man. Jason Peters was, as he got older, grew into that body. He was bigger. But DeJuan is, he is a mountain of a man.
When you're scheming defenses, how many edge rushers in the NFL, or just rushers in general, have a Euro step in their arsenal the way Miles is? Like, seriously, is that a move you see?
Yeah, the great ones do. They have the full gamut of moves and the counter moves off of that. I haven't studied the pass rush, much like Scott Peters and those guys have, but I know he gets home. I know that the San Francisco game when he wasn't affected by an edge, whether they're chipping or at least getting in his way, he hit the quarterback and caused sack fumbles, had 3 sacks. So obviously he's a great player, and we have to make sure we account for him at all times.
That you guys have been working on this summer with Nick Chubb in the passing game, Elijah Moore in the backfield. How much can that change week by week now that you've seen it in practice?
Yeah, always evolving. Just trying to find good matchups, trying to find plays where we could, give the defense a different look, do different things, hand it off to Elijah a few times, and put Nick out wide and throw him the ball. So it's multiple and versatile. That's part of our identity as an offense, and we'll continue to grow that.
Duo of T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith, and is that the thing that's going to keep you up at night between now and Monday?
It's definitely a number one priority for us is to make sure we take care of the edges. You can talk about TJ all you want, but Highsmith on the other side is a Pro Bowler also and is an extremely good pass rusher. So not just one side we have to be on point on, it's really both sides.
Can you speak to DeJuan's just demeanor and development, like getting put in last week on no notice and just how he's come along all summer to get himself
He's
ready?
rolled with the punches. He really has. He's just gone with the flow. I see him this morning. He's sitting up in front of the meeting room in our protection meetings, and he's ready to roll. I think he's ready for the challenge. It's a huge opportunity for him to step in and play as a starter as a rookie. So everything I've seen has been positive.
How much did the game plan have to change because of the weather? I mean, you started at 3 wides and then wound up going to a lot of like 3 tight ends. Was that strictly because of the weather?
It had a lot to do with it. As we built the lead, also we wanted to lean a little bit on the run game, which we had success with, but it definitely affected the pass game early. We were waiting for that break after halftime, and it never really came. But we were both playing under those conditions. So.
You guys really, want to hit a lot of those big plays and have those explosives this year. It seems like that's a point of emphasis. If they don't hit the way that you want them to, you just have to keep going with that and know that, you might miss 2 and get 1. Or what's your philosophy?
Yeah, I mean it's they're really low percentage if you look at the overall completions, but they're huge explosives when you do hit them. We'll take misses. We're going to stretch the field. We want to be explosive. The other part of that is if it's not there, and it's one of the things we talk about in the quarterback room, if the shot's not there, find a completion with the check down. So can't get greedy in those situations. Just have to take what they give you and just keep dialing them up.
Alex, how well did you know Coach Schwartz before you got here?
Just played against him, mainly my time in Green Bay when he was in Detroit, but nothing on a personal level.
What have you thought of what he's done with this defense so far?
Very impressive. Obviously, that was a unbelievable performance by them. Their efficiency rating, I forget, was in the high 70s, which is unheard of. So they actually, they dominated on that side of the ball, and that's great to see when you're an offense and you have a few 3 and outs and you feel like, okay, our defense is going to get us the ball back. That's a good feeling. So really happy for those guys, the success they had in that game, and continue moving forward to be a dominant defense.
What was your reaction to Wyatt Teller finishing a guy off 25 yards away from the line of scrimmage?
My first initial thought was, oh God, we're going to get a penalty. Because when he tends to do that, whether it's legal or illegal, and generally it's legal, it's just such a violent act that it gets called. So I was glad to see that the ref didn't call it. I mean, he's had many dominant blocks like that that have been called. Unfortunately, that when you send them in, they come back as well. He had it really wasn't a hold. My first fear was, oh shoot, he's going to get a flag, but didn't see the flag. I was very happy. I mean, he's a strong guy. His finish is really good, so he's going to have those opportunities. We just got to be smart when we pancake guys.
I think DeJuan's quick feet will help him in this game.
He's going to have to use every tool in his toolbox to block that guy on the right side. There's no doubt, but his foot speed will help him in that regard, along with his size.
Do to get McCaffrey the yards he was able to get last week?
I thought they were persistent with the run. I thought they stuck with it. They got some looks of some 1, 2, 3 yard gains, and then they just kept running. And it's kind of you hang your hat on the run game, and eventually you're going to get some of those to pop. He had the big run, obviously, 65 yards or whatever it was. But then they started creasing them as they got going a little bit in the second half. Again, when you take an all-pro defensive tackle out, it's tough to replace that body.
Run game on Sunday, I know Nick too caught all 4 of his targets early in the pass game too.
Right.
Like how big that was given the weather, and then considering that's been a discussion point with Nick and how involved he was going to be in that aspect.
Sure. I mean, anytime you could take the ball and basically hand it to Nick Chubb 5 yards past the line of scrimmage is a good thing for us, right? Doesn't have to get through the line, doesn't have to be blocked perfectly. So check down emphasis is a big part of the production that Nick can bring us.
Alex, I know you guys have, put a lot of faith in Deshaun Watson at the line, and when you play tempo, things like that. How good is he at the line of scrimmage at diagnosing things? And
really good. He sees it as well as anybody I've been around. He can tell you exactly what happens on the play, where each defender was. He'll see stuff that I might not catch on the sideline, and he'll say, no, the safety was there. And you're like, oh, shoot, he was there. So he sees it extremely well. It's one of his strengths, his ability to see and read defense. All right, guys, thank you.
They are. They're in a little bit of funk, lost 3 in a row. It's pretty good. Oh, the seat's already warm. All right, guys, I got a hard 112 stop, so I'll stop mid-sentence when it comes up.
But did that go about as well as you could have hoped as far as, Alex said you guys graded out really high.
Yeah, I mean, efficiency-wise, they really couldn't get anything started, third down, all those percentage. It was a extremely high win percentage. But I think the thing I was most proud of was the way the players played together and their spirit and the things that we've been talking about. I thought like you put the tape on and that stood out the most, not the efficiency or the run yards or the pass yards or, any of those numbers. It went beyond numbers, and it's what we've been, sort of pointing towards since day one is to operate as a cohesive unit, to work well with each other. I have a stupid saying that, our job as a defense is to find a way for 1 + 1 to equal 3, meaning that the sum needs to be greater than our individual parts, and I thought we did that. That's what I was most proud of.
Jim, Martin said, off that, the loafs, that when you don't see the guys celebrating with their teammates after a big play, when did you sort of kind of come up with that, what part, to kind of implement that with your defense to get that,
Well, first of all, Martin shouldn't be talking about what goes on in our meetings. So we'll just start with that. But I don't know, every coach has, different things like that. Like there's a lot of kind of loafs on a field. You get passed by a teammate, that's a loaf. There's all sorts of different, change of speed loaf. You get a guy that's running and then all of a sudden change of speed, that's a loaf. But, we sort of added celebration loaf in that, we want to celebrate guys making plays and we want to have energy. And, it's easy when you play a game like we did. Sometimes it's harder when you're getting kicked in the teeth, but we still want to see that. And we still want guys to play hard, play together. And we're going to find ways to get that done. And if it means something silly like that, then mission accomplished.
How about Miles' crossover dribble? Your thoughts on that and some of the things that he did in terms of standing up over the center and stuff like that?
Yeah, he's a great player and he's going to get attention wherever he goes. We're just trying to move him around, get good matchups. And, I think the thing I liked the most about him was just the way he was an unselfish rusher. Like on that play, he didn't get the sack, but if you watched him, he was celebrating Obo and AWalk and all those other guys that got in it just as much. And, up front, we're trying to sack the quarterback. They didn't give us many opportunities. That the ball was coming out so extremely fast. You can't really judge the way we rushed based on that. But it's all about what the group does. It's all about what the defense does, and when you get guys to buy into that and they can celebrate their teammates and they can be unselfish, I think that's the thing that stood out the most about the way we used him.
Jim, when you move him around and you go with the 5D linemen and you move Zadarius all over, how much of that is about creating confusion for what the line and the quarterback are looking at?
Well, yeah, but when it's all said and done, they know Miles wears number 95. And he's, 6'5" and 270 pounds. And, he's not, I used to say that about Calvin Johnson, it's like, you move him around. Yeah, but he still wears number 81 and he's, 6'5", 235. And, so, I think they know who our players are. But, I think if we have the ability to have guys that are, we have guys that are have multi-dimensional skills, and that gives us the ability to move guys around in different ways. And we talked about that when we signed or traded for Z. From the very beginning, that was an important part of his profile. And, having guys flexible, guys like that allow you to, sort of move pieces around.
Jim, I know even mentioning that the sacks necessarily weren't there because of how quick the ball was coming out. To still get the pressures, especially Miles and Z, how valuable that ended up being, especially for those to come early.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea is, get off the field on third down and keep the points down and things like that. You know, if you're a power hitter, I'll use my tired baseball analogies, but if they're not giving you a pitcher over the plate, hard to hit a home run, right? And, when the ball was coming out so quick, the Bengals really couldn't get any, you know, any kind of development to their passing game. And that had just as much of effect. And like I said, I was proud of the guys and the spirit that they played with. There was nobody getting frustrated. They were getting third and fourth down stops and keeping the score down and, the things that we talked about. And, the numbers will come. But, the whole idea is to play to team football, to have some camaraderie, to play with some spirit. And I think, like I said, that was what I was most proud of.
Is it easier to get guys to buy in on the selflessness when you have a talent like 95?
I don't know. I think that's, that's part of a coach's job. That's part of a player's job. A coach needs to sell his plan and his vision, and he needs to come up with ways to put his players in the best positions. And then when you're doing that, then it's easier for players to buy in. But then players have a responsibility to buy in also. It's a two-way street. I don't know that it, has anything to do with, a certain jersey number or anything else. It's just high school football, pee-wee football, NFL, college, playing together and everybody operating as one, operating efficiently, communicating. Those things are probably below the radar when it comes to people love to talk about the scheme and the chess match and everything else. And, that's important, but that's pretty far down on my list.
And the team to lead the league in some intangibles like effort and passion. Did you see enough of that in week one, and how does that translate into week two in another tough division?
Yeah, week one's over with that. I don't know that, week one, it was what it was, I don't know, you say you've seen enough of it. We have 17-game season, and hopefully we play more after that. So our job is to go out and do it every week and to be consistent. And, I think we set a good standard for how we're going to play. And I think it didn't just stand alone. I think, if you saw some of our practices from training camp, you felt some of the same thing. And if you saw our preseason game, I hope you would see the same thing. But, it's just a start. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's Pittsburgh, and this is a huge rivalry, an away game, a primetime game. We'll keep the focus on that and not what happened last week. We want to carry over the effort and the toughness and the swag and the badassery and all those things that we talk about. But, that game's over, and our challenge is to do it again this week because this is a big game for our team, for our franchise, for our city.
Jim, Anthony Walker got hurt a year ago. He said he wasn't sure he'd make it back. So just how glad are you? What has he meant to the whole operation here?
Well, I think it speaks for itself that he's one of our captains. He wasn't part of the whole most of the season last year, wasn't part of most of the off-season program, sporadic in training camp, but he found a way to make his presence felt. He's an experienced player. He's super smart, understands situations. He's a really good communicator, makes life easy for the other guys around him. I'm going to run out of time saying nice things about him, so. But he better practice good today.
What type of problems or challenges does Kenny Pickett present to your defense?
Yeah, he's a guy that, people talk about 50-50 balls, but, I don't know they're necessarily 50-50 balls with him. He wins probably, 70-30 of them, and that's going to be a big challenge for our guys. I think our guys showed the confidence that they can play with on the outside part of the field against some pretty tough characters and Higgins and Chase. Every week it's a new challenge, and I wouldn't just stop with Pickens. Allen Robinson's an experienced player. Freiermuth, big target for the quarterback. We have a lot of one-on-ones that we have to win, and it's not just going to be just one player one-on-one. We'll have zones, we'll have man, but if we can have a performance like we had last week, and we can we can be confident on the outside part of the field. Now, that being said, this is the NFL. They're going to make plays, right? Every week's, I mean, these guys are really good, and they're going to make plays. The thing that we're going to need to see, and we saw it the one time on Denzel when he got the PI, right? We bounced right back, stopped him right after that, and held him to a field goal on that one, right? I think that's what it was. Either that or the missed field goal. I can't remember, but there's going to come times they're going to make great catches. That guy's made some insane catches, and he's strong. He's got a good frame. That's going to be a great matchup for fans to watch on Monday night.
The importance of tackling after the catch, and it felt like Grant Delpit made a bunch of those, even on some third downs. How impressed were you with what Grant was able to do?
Yeah, I've been watching Grant since college, watched pretty much his whole career. I thought that was probably the best game I've ever seen him play, including college. Those safeties that can make everybody right, they can match up in man, did a great job with his disguise. Him and Rodney and even Hickman, they did a great job with their disguise. And has the ability to play down low, can play in the deep part of the field. Grant's off to a great start, and I'm excited for where he'll go this year if he keeps it up. But again, one game doesn't make a season. We need to be consistent. We need to keep putting it on tape week after week. But I'm really proud to coach a guy like Grant.
A lot has been made about your comment about not being everyone's cup of tea. We heard Jim Donovan on the broadcast say, "I like tea," and Stefanski say, "He's our cup of tea." How good is that for you? Does that kind of give you the no seatbelts mantra that you're preaching to the defense? And how good does it feel to have that city and the coaching staff behind you to kind of
I don't really
unlock?
pay attention a lot to it. I'd say this, I expect players to play with their personality. I don't want to coach robots on the field. I expect them to have personality, and every guy's different. We talked about A-Walk, and he's a little bit different than Miles, and we talked about Grant, and we talked about, all these different guys. Everybody's got a little different personality, and you can't, force feed everybody into those. I am what I am. I embrace it, Sometimes I can ruffle some feathers. Sometimes I can be a little tough, but there's a motive behind it. I've seen a lot of stuff in the NFL, and I have a good idea of what we want to accomplish and what we want to exceed. And sometimes you got to be willing to ruffle a couple feathers to get that out. Our job is to inspire and motivate our players, and there's a lot of different ways to do that. Sometimes it's a pat on the back, sometimes it's a bite in the ass, So, I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get our players ready to play, and really to let the chips fall. I really, really don't care what's said or written about me.
A while back mentioned the emphasis on within stopping the third down. You guys had 13 of them on Sunday. Even though week one, as you said, has passed, has there been a certain emphasis that you've brought to this unit that ranked 17th at that last season, and we're going to bring that up this season in the weeks to follow?
Yeah, I mean, we put a lot of time in. Today, a lot of our stuff is going to be on third down. And, we talk about job of the defense is keeping points down and turning the ball over. And one of the best ways to get off with no points is to get off the field on third down or fourth down stop. Fourth down stop is a turnover. Turnover on downs, set the offense up for a score, which we did in that game. We'll keep our eye on those things, but red zone stops. We didn't play any red zone snaps, but third down stops. That's extremely important to keeping the points down and keeping your guys fresh. Getting the ball back for the offense. We have a pretty good combination of rush, cover, and some blitz looks and things like that. But again, last week is last week. This week we're starting off 0 for 0 on third down. There's no carryover. Maybe you stats people might, feel like there's carryover or whatever, but this game's fresh. This game's new. We got to do the job this week. It's a big game on Monday night, and I know a little bit about this history from my 3 years here before, and this is a very important game for our defense, for our team, for our organization, and for our city. We got one more minute.
Last one. We all hear about Steel Curtain and how great the defense has been in the past. Obviously, the Browns kind of get mixed up in that, and are kind of forgotten about. Do you feel like this Monday night game is a chance for your defense to stake a claim in, potentially being the best defense in the NFL?
We don't worry about that. We're trying to be the best we can be on a particular Sunday. We'll let the chips fall where they may after that. They have a great, great storied history of defense. We have a lot of respect for what they've done and, and things like that. But none of that is going to mean anything on Monday night. It's going to be the two teams this year, these guys, Let me know if Mean Joe and Jack Lambert are playing because, if we need a plan for Franco Harris or Lynn Swan or John Stallworth or Franco or Terry Bradshaw, we'll get that ready. But those guys aren't playing. This is a new year. So what's happened in the past, that doesn't mean anything to this game. We have respect for them. We always respect our opponents, but we're going to accentuate us and what we do well and try to give our best performance and not worry about the rest of the league or what's happened in the past or, what's going to happen 10 weeks down the road. Let's keep our eyes on today and Monday night. All right, guys.